Black women have the most valuable genes in all humanity. But what if those genes were stolen to make medical and cosmetic advances without anyone knowing for decades? I'm Rosemarie Havsom. I'm back again to let you know that you can take full control of your life by what you choose to put at the end of your fork. So let's get into it.
HeLa cells are the first immortal human cell line ever grown in culture. They have revolutionized medical research. HeLa cells were taken in 1951 without consent from a cervical cancer patient named Henrietta Lacks. The cells were unique. They could divide indefinitely. Usually, human cells only divide around 50 times before dying, but not HeLa. They continue multiplying rapidly forever. This immortality lets scientists grow endless amounts of HeLa for experiments. No other cell line grows as well. This new HeLa cell line led to breakthroughs like polio vaccine creation and testing cancer drugs. Vital processes like DNA transcription and telomerase activity were first discovered in HeLa cells. These cells also enabled mapping human chromosomes and major advances in cloning, cell biology, and genetics. However, Henrietta Lacks and her family were not consulted or compensated for the use of her cells.
The date was 1951, and unfortunately for 31-year-old Henrietta Lacks, that was her last day on earth. She suffered from cervical cancer, and she entered into Johns Hopkins Hospital to get her tumor biopsied, but unfortunately it was too late and she died in agony. Now, what's interesting to note is that her cells were taken without her knowledge or consent from her family. And these cells were used for decades after her death to advance medical and cosmetics. What is particularly amazing about these cells is that they're called HeLa cells. When they looked at these cells under the microscope, these cells were dividing and continuing to divide forever. That's why they were dubbed immortal cells. Usually, when cells divide, they divide up to about 50 times, and then that's the end of their division. But with Henrietta Lacks cells, these special cells, they just continued ad infinitum. So that means you had an amazing set of cells that you could conduct experiments on to develop things like the polio vaccine, which was developed as a direct result from using Henrietta Lacks' stolen cells. These cells were used and to come up with the COVID vaccine, as well as look into AIDS treatments. All of this without the consent or knowledge of Henrietta Lacks' family. So it wasn't until these HeLa cells went bad that the family was then contacted by various researchers asking for more cell donations, that then it was all revealed what had happened all of those years ago. The family then took to action to get compensation for all of these decades of the misappropriation of their relatives' cells. So in August 1st of 2025, the family finally won compensation from a large biotech firm, Thermo Fisher Scientific. This all goes back to the racism that comes about from Black people and Black women in particular. In this case, Black women are revered and maligned because of who we are. And in the United States, we see this so much. So many experiments have been made on Black people. Black people have been experimented on since the days of slavery until today. And Henrietta Lacks' story is such a sad, sad conclusion to what could have been something that could have helped her, perhaps. But for them to just use her cells without any permission, and the fact that she was buried in a grave that had no headstone until 2010, this is so atrocious. But you need to look at the research and look at what's been happening to Black people over the centuries. So not only do you steal a certain people from their homeland in Mother Africa, you bring them to a foreign land, you subject them to all kinds of inhumane acts Now, for Black people to have even made it across a transatlantic voyage is something to be said about their ability to survive and their resilience. But then to steal their cells, to experiment on Black women, slave women, for gynecology advancements without providing any kind of painkillers or anesthesia for these women that were experimented on with excruciating pain, for that to happen, and for them to then be, for the others then to be promoting advances in gynecological practice as a direct result of those experiments is abominable. The experience of Henrietta Lacks to go into a hospital to try to get help and instead have that hospital steal her cells to continue medical research on it is just very telling of who wants what from whom. Let's put it to you this way. The Eve gene. Remember when that came out? Because remember, it wasn't that long ago that the entire human genome was tracked and recorded. That was around the year of 2000 when that happened. And from that, scientists then could track and map all kinds of illnesses and diseases to supposedly have better outcomes and better treatments. But what that's also done is to open the rabbit hole on what can be done with human genes and what they can be mixed with. Transhumanism used to be just some sort of far-fetched scientific idea, allegedly. But however, now we are seeing transhumanism happening in real time. What do you think went into the mRNA vaccine? Yes. Do you remember that it actually had extracts from aborted fetuses? It was done to find a cure. Or was it done to do something more devious with people's DNA? If you have a vaccine that was administered to the body to prevent an epidemic from spreading, the number one thing to look at is, did it prevent spread? Did it prevent people from getting it? Those are the two arguments that were made to have the vaccine accepted by the majority of people around the world. Now, there have been many cases of vaccine injuries that are just coming to light now, years after the pandemic ended. And now we're looking at somebody like Henrietta Lacks and what was done with her cells. And it makes you wonder, what is the end game to all of this? Because if you think that it's just about manipulating people's DNA and just about making sure that we can control population by not allowing certain people to have too many children, if you think it's just about the goodness of people's hearts, then you have another thing coming, because it's not about that. There's something more sinister that's going on. And in order for you as African Americans, as Black people in America, to benefit from the world around you, is to make sure that you are fully awake. Being fully awake means that you're nourishing your body with real food. You're making the effort to get real food into your body to give you the nutrition and the nutrients that your body craves and your brain needs. If not, we're going to be just caught up with all kinds of distractions on the side while these kinds of experiments are put upon us. Now, people will say, whoa, 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 wait a second. A lot of these experiments and a lot of these research projects are for the betterment of humanity. And yes, there is some truth to that as well. But then the other hidden truth in plain sight is what is going on with everything else. The other parts of it that we don't know about. Did you know that for organ donors, one of the main organs that is in high demand is skin? And not just any skin, but melanated skin. Look into it. Look at all the things that it can be used for, which is to help burn victims and to regrow and graft skin. That's a whole other argument. But the thing to remember is that when you see a combination of a high number of missing and never found melanated people in the United States, missing, gone without a trace, then when you look at places like Planned Parenthood that is overtly using aborted fetuses and tissues from that for cosmetic purposes and pharmaceutical purposes, There's a lot more going on than people are willing to see. And if you're distracted because you cannot think critically because of the food, the poor food choices that are there and that you are taking into your body, then you're going to miss it. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot more that we need to see. We need to keep our eyes open. And by keeping your eyes open, that means you're eating real food, you're exercising, you're keeping a healthy weight so that you're not burdening your body's functions with overweight, obesity, and high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes. We can do better than this, but we have to help ourselves. The whole issue with Henrietta Lacks and her story is that the family only got compensation in 2025 when her cells have been used since 1951 without permission. Open your eyes. There's a lot more going on than what meets the eyes. Stay awake. What do you think? What do you think about Henrietta Lacks' stolen cells? What do you think that that means? Mention it in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And remember too that I have a YouTube channel that's Havsom, spelled H-A-V for Victor, S-O-M for mother. We'll continue the conversation there. To your good health. Bye.